Yes! Welcome back to another episode of the FTFL Weekly Update. Excellent to see all my friends again, all my fellow FTFLers. It is I, Brett Sieber, host of the show, owner of the Macho Madness. Week 5 is in the books, and the trade winds are a-blowing. Man, they are a-blowing. Trades all over. The good teams trying to get better, a couple good teams actually working together, a couple of the not-so-good teams maybe starting to already plan for next year. Again, it's week 5, so let's take this in stride. Now, Bazinga gave up DeMarco Murray and Alshon Jeffrey. Now, Jeffrey, for the second year in a row, was traded away by Bazinga. Kramerica, in that trade, gave up Julio Jones and Matt Jones. We'll find a little bit later just how that went down. You know, Kramerica gets DeMarco, Bazinga gets Julio, pairs him with A.J. Green. Going to be tough to stop Bazinga. Manamana gave up LeGarrette Blount and a 9th-round pick, and Salty and the Radioactive Monkeys, who are in complete free fall, trying to pick up some ground, gave up Rashad Jennings in the 3rd-round pick. So we had that go down this week as well. Brady, just off the press, traded for a 1st-round pick. Wow, that's a steep price. Big Ben up for trade. Matt, anyone? More on that in a little bit. Also, the last team to surpass the century mark, Adam Swartz, congratulations, nicely done. Duke Johnson, still homeless, but no longer alone. Because, my friends, the end of an era for John Lakowitz said goodbye this week to RG3. Now, maybe he couldn't coach him up like he could Calvin Johnson. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be. Our hearts go out to RG3 and Lakowitz. I know this wasn't easy. Well, you'll be missed. All right, then, with that, I think we're going to get into our games. And here we go. First game off the top, Bazinga 2-2 versus the Architect 3-1, who has been rolling. 3 games in a row they had won. Closest game of the week. But Bazinga gets the W. Now, they survived a 12.5-point performance by his trio of amazing receivers, A.J. Green, Julio Jones, and Emmanuel Sanders, 12.5 points. Now, carried by Derek Carr's 24 points, which is about a quarter of his points this week. Coming into Monday night, a tight game, a close game. The victory was definitely sealed by Greg Olsen, 16.5 points, who is averaging over 13 a week. Gotta love that coming from a tight end. The Arizona defense also chipped in 14. If you're the Architect, man, you didn't lose because of your running back. Ezekiel Elliott and Devontae Freeman combined for 43 points, over half his points. It was not their fault. Next highest point total came from the Bills' defense, which was 15. His quarterback situation is not in good shape. Jameis Winston, Eli Manning, it sounds like maybe he could benefit from someone like Ben Roethlisberger. If only someone would have offered him a trade like 3 different times. Check your email, dude. Also, really no one on the bench that was going to help him out. In fact, it's, really, it was a player in his lineup that ultimately let him down. More on that later. Next up, Ryan Dees of Titty and Balls, 3-1, taking on the Radioactive I'm in Free Fall Monkeys at 2-2, and the free fall continues. 100.5 points to 81.5. Ryan Dees wins. And if you're Ryan, somehow, someway, he started 2 Oakland wide receivers. 2. And it worked. Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper combined for 32.5 points. You throw in 22 from Andrew Luck. Good week for him. Carolina's defense at 2 points continues to be the anchor on this team, I think, being even better. If you're the Radioactive Monkeys, wow, Matt Forte, 5 points, continues to struggle. I think in some ways probably starting to show his age just a little bit. But Theo Riddick has a nice bounce back week, had 19 points. His kickers, defense, and tight end combined for 16.5. Not great, not, I guess, terrible. We'll see worse coming up. Oddly, left the newly acquired Garrett Blount on the bench. Now, it would have helped in the overall point total, but it wouldn't have necessarily helped in the actual result of the game. Now, he is also a league-high 101.8 points against him Macho Madness, 88 to 51. Now, 51 really didn't do much to bring up the 77.7 points, but let's be honest, Jeff's had a little bit of a free ride so far. His team's been playing great, but he really hasn't been tested. For Manamana, not his best week, but it didn't matter. David Johnson, that trade kind of came back to haunt this week. 25.5 points. 25.5 points. That one stung. He though survived 11.5 combined points from his tight end, kicker, and defense. So the bottom of his roster didn't do a whole lot for him, but again, it didn't matter. Even though only 4 of 9 players were in double digits, it ended up being enough because for me, only 2 of 9 of my starting players were in double digits this week. Aaron Rodgers, 16. Mike Evans, who continues to be the bright spot. And by the bright, I mean the bright spot, at least in the starting lineup. More on that in a moment. Jeremy Hill, where have you been? What are you doing? In 3 starting appearances for my team, Jeremy Hill, you have 7.5 points combined. Awful. Just utterly ridiculous. The tight end carousel for me continues. I drop Flinger, he goes off. I drop Jesse James, he goes off. This week, I'll be dropping Brake, so if you're looking for a surefire deadbolt lock, pick him up, and you'll go far, I promise. 51 points for my starters. Dak Prescott and Ben Roethlisberger combined on the bench for 50. With the loss, I fall to 1-4, and Jeff, of course, the win goes to 4-1. Well, it is time for the 1 good minute. Wait, what is this? Wait, someone's calling. Let me see who this is. Hello, this is Brett. You're on the FTFL Weekly Update. Who am I speaking to tonight? Bob, where are you calling from, Bob? Oh, wait, my friends from the north, Bemidji State, dude, that's where I went to college, Bob. Wow, this is really cool. I've never had a caller on the show. Go Beavers, indeed. So, Bob, what do we owe the pleasure of your phone call here tonight?
You know, I'm a huge fan. This is what, week 5 of this week, man?
Week 5, hey man, thanks, I appreciate it.
Every week, you know, you get a great laugh out of it. Great show. Might be the best thing on YouTube that I've watched in a while.
Again, I appreciate it. We're having lots of fun. I'm glad you've been paying attention up there in Bemidji. You must have the one computer they have in town.
Yeah, they do have a couple. Yes.
All right.
And I have linked up to the FTFL website and have noticed a team that I must say just looks amazing.
There's a couple.
I can't even believe they have a loss.
Well, and so what team are you talking about there, Mr. Bob?
Well, it should be the only team to talk about, which would be Manamana.
Well, you know, Manamana, I guess, is,
They're stacked.
they're,
They got rid of a guy once,
right?
and they still won.
They did. I mean, David Johnson had a really good week for them this week. They look good now. I'm a little concerned. They just gave up a first-round pick for Brady. That's kind of steep.
Wait a second. They gave up their game, Brady?
That,
Oh my God, that's amazing. I did not know that yet. That must be fresh off the rumor mill. I did not realize they get Brady too.
well,
What a weakness that they have. Now they have a quarterback? Oh, they're going to be unstoppable.
you know,
I do realize that they are going to come up against, you know, a lot better opponents than they went up against this week. I mean, geez, I can't even remember the team's name that they played against.
well, that was, you know what? That was the Macho Madness, and that's a respectable FTFL franchise. By the way, you can't,
Did you say Macho Madness?
That's right.
Macho Madness?
No, 2003 FTFL champion. I think that's how we prefer to be referred to. You know, Bob, we appreciate the phone call tonight. I'm glad that you're paying attention up there in Bemidji, and yeah, you know, maybe we'll get to hear from you sometime again in the future.
All right. Go Manamana.
Yeah, whatever. Go Manamana. That sounds wonderful. Wow, that was absolutely amazing. First time caller. Well, you know what? That ate up most of the good minute, if not more than that. So let's just fire through these last couple games, and we'll wrap this thing up. Now, Primerica, arguably the best team in the league at 3-1, took on Pack Attack at 1-3. Pack Attack had a pretty awesome led by T.Y. Hilton, 25 points, followed closely by Adam, I'm 50, Vinatieri's 23. He survived a pitiful performance by his defense. Houston, 2 points. Come on, Houston. The Vikings offense isn't all that great. Tevin Coleman, 18, outscored Murray and Washington, his 2 starters, while being on the bench. If you're Pack Attack, it was a good week, great week, but not good enough. Welcome Brady, 30 points, although we just found out he's being shipped off. I guess that wasn't enough. Pair of 10.5-point performances by his receivers, Randall Cobb and Demaryius Thomas. Caleb Sturgis added 14. Now, kind of stung by Lamar Miller's half point. Really, as a first-round pick, that's not going to get it done. But I would argue this. Randall Cobb had a touchdown taken away from him in that game. That should have counted, and that might have made the difference. But it didn't in this week, so the Pack Attack falls to 1-4. Last game of the week, Adam Swartz, I'm hung at 1-3 versus Linkowitz. It's 1-3, and I'm hung. Finally breaking the century mark. Highest point total of the week with that 113. Zach Miller at 7.5 was his lowest position player, and only one not in double digits. Rivers was topped with 30. The kicker and the defense combined for 9, but everyone else piled in a bunch of points, so that didn't matter, including his pickup this week, Jacquizz Rodgers, who had 10.5. If you're Linkowitz, for the 4th time in 5 weeks, the Vikings defense, 17 points, is your leading scorer. Great to see a defense doing that. Not great if that's your leading scorer. That formula isn't working. Odell Beckham did get into the end zone this week. He had 0 points on his bench, so there really isn't anywhere to look for answers. Michael Floyd in the starting lineup, but it was almost as if, well, let's be honest, he didn't exist. He threw in 0 points. Time now for the stud of the week. Has to go to Adam Vinatieri. He's not 50. I actually looked it up. He's 43. 23 points was 11 points higher than his high point total from the season. So 11 more points than he scored at all at any given week this year, and his team won by 10. Adam Vinatieri, you were the stud of the week. No, the dud of the week, could have given it to Jeremy Hill. That was maybe too easy. 0 points. The game wasn't close. 7.5 points in 3 starts. Again, too easy. Lamar Miller, first-round pick, half point this week. 3.7 yards per carry this year. He's averaging about 6 points a week. First-round pick, that's bad, but here's the one. There was a man who's averaging almost 10 points a week, whose team lost this week by 4 points. Matt, you shouldn't be surprised if you were let down by Minnesota Vikings, because after all, that's what the Minnesota Vikings do. They let people down. Kyle Rudolph, you're the dud of the week with 1 point. You cost your team this week. You slowed the momentum down. Decent update. I was going to say not much, but then again, first-round pick for Brady. All in, 5 weeks through the season, seems early to be gambling that big. If it blows up in his face, Jeff Markstrom might find his name back on the toilet seat. Next week's matchups. Architect at 3-2 versus the Macho Bandits, who is just desperately looking for a victory. Pack Attack at 1-4 versus Bazinga at 3-2, who has very, very quickly put together a stout lineup. Kramerica at 4-1 versus Linkowitz at 1-4. The Radioactive Monkeys 2-3 versus Adam Swartz. I'm hung at 2-3, but the game of the week will be the Menomina at 4-1 taking on Ryan Deesums, Titty the Bald, also at 4-1. Should be something to look forward to, something to watch. I am looking forward to it. Thanks for paying attention this week. I'm glad you were here for another episode of the FTFL Weekly Update. I am Brett Sieber, and